Okay, final installment of our fraction book. We've talked about all of these things. We're going to finish up now with dividing fractions. So let's go to the back of our book here. And we're going to fill this area here talking about dividing. Okay, so let's write the word divide here. Okay, so as always, we need to write our steps. So step number 1, we're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. And I'm going to put a dot. I don't like an X because an X refers to a variable, and we're in pre-algebra now, so we're going to kind of use that dot, okay? So we're going to change the division to a multiplication, okay? Then what we're going to do is take the reciprocal. Some of you might remember that word. We're going to go over it in a second. Take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Okay, you're going to take the reciprocal of the second fraction. And then step 3, which is easy, follow the multiplication rules, which we kind of went over in the other video, which we're going to go over again right now really quick. Okay, so our steps are change the division to multiplication, so change the sign. And then we take the reciprocal of the second fraction. We're going to follow our multiplication rules. Our multiplication rules, if we remember, is cross cancel where you can by common factors, multiply across, simplify if possible. So we know that multiplying is really simple if we can get there. So let's write down a couple of things though about words we need to know. First of all, reciprocal. Okay, the word reciprocal, some people probably don't remember this, so I'm going to write down some words. I love this word. It's one of my favorite words in math. Multiplicative. Okay, the reciprocal is also known as the multiplicative inverse. In other words, what number, let's see if we can figure this out. What number would I multiply 3/5 by to get 1? Okay, we want the same number on top as we want on the bottom. Hopefully people see that that's 5/3, right? Because 3 times 5 is 15, 5 times 3 is 15, so 15 divided by 15 is equal to 1. So this is what a reciprocal is. Some of us may have learned in elementary school, flip the fraction. And I know probably people are smiling right now because they understand what that means. So if I get 3/5, if I want the reciprocal of 3/5, it becomes 5/3. That's the multiplicative inverse. That's where it comes from. This is why you're allowed to flip the fraction, because we're looking for the fraction that equals 1. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Let's do one example over here. Okay, using everything that we know. Okay. So we're going to take 22 over 39, and we're going to divide it by 2/3. So let's follow our steps. Change the division sign to a multiplication sign. Take the reciprocal of the second fraction. That means this one's not changing. This one's always going to stay the same because we don't start to change things. So when we start to change this, that means everything afterwards changes. So division becomes multiplication. 2/3, I need the reciprocal, so that becomes 3/2. So now this is where I'm at, and I'm going to follow my multiplication rules. My multiplication rules tell me to cross cancel where I can. So I know that 22 is the same as 2 times 11, and 39 is the same as 3 times 13. So I have better numbers here that I can do some work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some canceling. I know that these 2's are going to cancel. That's going to give me a big giant 1 there. And I also know these 3's are going to cancel, and that gives me a big giant 1 there. Once I'm done with that, all I have to do is see what's left over. I have an 11 times 1, which is equal to 11, and I have 13 times 1, which is equal to 13. So much easier to do, because if I don't do this and I multiply across, I'm going to get 66 divided by 78, and I don't know if that's what I really want to do to get me back to 11 over 13, because our divisibility rules are kind of hurting here, because we'd be like, well, 11 doesn't work, this doesn't work, they're both even, I got to go by 2's. I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of work to get it here, but if you cancel early, you'll get there. Okay, so one last thing I want you to leave on this page. I want you to put one more note over here. Okay, here we go. This is my last note. All mixed numbers must become improper fractions to multiply or divide. Put multiply / divide. This is really important, okay? That means if I get a problem that says like 2 1/3 divided by 2/3, right? So we'll just put a little one down here. 2 1/3 divided by 2/3. I've got to change this to an improper fraction. Okay, you have to remember how to do that. How to change a fraction to an improper fraction. So I'm going to put that right here. How do I do that? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to multiply this one and add this one. So we're going to kind of go in this direction. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So this is the same as 7/3. Okay, then you would change this to 7/3. Then you would follow along, change your division to multiplication, take the reciprocal, see those cancel away. Now you're at 7/2, and you've got to take this back. Remember, we leave our answers as mixed numbers, so you'd have to reduce that out to be 3 1/2. So we're going to have to go back and forth with improper fractions. You are going to see those. You won't see them a lot, but when you do, you must remember this rule. So I just threw this in as a side note in here when it comes to improper fractions when you multiply or divide. But you have to change anything into an improper fraction so you can do the canceling. You cannot cancel when it's a mixed number. Okay? And that's our last installment for our fraction book.